Everyone, good morning. We're glad you found the Human K feed. Today, we'll talk about technology acceptance, which is a big part of the information system management study. Over the years, academics have tried to figure out what makes people open to new technologies. In the 1980s, personal computers started to become more popular, but progress was slowed by a lack of actual knowledge about how users react to the performance of information systems. Before the technology acceptance model was made, different technological and organizational points of view tried to move the information system study forward. They focused on things like how the user was involved in the creation and features of the system. However, subjective performance perception scales were not validated. Davis made the technology acceptance model, TAM, which is built on the theory of reasoned action, TRA, to deal with this. TAM looks at specific ideas about how people use technology and tries to look at a wide range of user behaviors in a simple way. TAM is based on the theory of reasoned action, which looks at human action from a psychological point of view. Davis and Davis found factors and measurements that were linked to system use and proved that they were accurate. They said that perceived ease of use and perceived value were two of the most important things that determined user acceptance. Perceived usefulness is a measure of how much using a certain tool makes things better. Both how easy it seems to use and how useful it seems to be cause cognitive reactions, which then form an emotional response, which affects how someone feels about using technology and whether or not they plan to use it. All of these things have an effect on how people act. As you can see, there are 3 steps to getting people to accept new technology. External factors cause cognitive reactions, which then lead to an emotional response and, in the end, change how people act. TAM says that if an application is supposed to be easy to use, the user is more likely to think it is useful, which makes it easier for people to accept new technologies. The development of TAM and the measures that go with it have made important additions to theory and practice. By using the model to test the usability of information system, researchers have been able to use proven subjective measures to figure out how motivated users are to use different technologies. Because the model's constructs have strong and significant correlations with how people use it, we now know more about the cognitive and emotional factors that help explain how system features affect how people accept technology. Now, we'll dive into the fascinating world of how companies accept new technology. Since the first theory of reasoned action was made, experts have tried to figure out what makes people think differently about how they use technology. The people who made TAM wanted to make it bigger so they could learn more about what makes people think technology is important. It was found that perceived usefulness was the best predictor of desire to use, with a large effect size. To make up for the lack of study, TAM2 was made, which added more variables and moderators. Some of these were subjective norms, image, job relevance, level of output, ability to show results, experience, and willingness. Subjective norm is how a person thinks other important people feel about them doing a certain action. The study found that subjective norms had a direct effect on behavior and an indirect effect on desire to use through image and perceived usefulness. This image shows how using new technology is thought to improve a person's social standing. TAM2 says that there is a good link between subjective norm and image, and studies have shown that there is a link between image and perceived usefulness. TAM2 also looks at how important the job is, how good the output is, and how easy it is to see the results. The quality of the outcome lessens the impact of a job's relevance on how useful people perceive it to be. Result demonstrability has to do with how real the results of the idea are. When TAM2 was tested in the real world, it was shown to be able to explain a large part of the differences in how useful people thought something was and how they planned to use it. It has filled a gap in the study of what makes people think something is useful and helped us learn more about the factors that affect how people think about technology. Even though TAM and TAM2 gave a lot of information, not much study has been done on how to get more people to use new technologies. Venkatesh and Bala put together the causes of perceived value and perceived ease of use in a single model called TAM3. TAM3 has antecedents like computer self-efficacy, a sense of external control, computer anxiety, playfulness, perceived enjoyment, and objective usefulness, to name a few. This complete model explains a lot of differences in how people plan to behave and how they do it. TAM 3 gives a full list of interventions that have direct effects on information technology adoption and management decision-making. By showing how antecedents, perceived ease of use, and perceived value are related, we can learn important things about how to get people to accept new technologies. Now, we'll talk about how technology acceptance models, or TAMs, can be used and what their actual effects are. TAM has proven to be a useful tool for predicting user behavior in many different fields, situations, and places. TAM has been used a lot in marketing and advertising because information systems are so important to getting the word out about goods and services. It has been used to find out how people feel about technologies that make online dealing possible, like chatbots, e-commerce platforms, and online shopping tools. TAM has been tried in many different situations, such as mobile banking, telecommunications technology, virtual reality, and e-learning systems. Across all of these tools, the effects of perceived usefulness and ease of use have been shown to be important, but the results about ease of use have not always been the same. People from different countries and places, like the US, Japan, India, and the Netherlands, have looked at how well TAM variables can predict behavior. TAM has been found to be a good way to explain how people accept and use websites in places like the Netherlands and India. TAM helps both vendors and practitioners in useful ways. TAM lets vendors estimate how much demand there might be for new information technology goods or manage their supply based on how users like them. Practitioners can use TAM to help consumers accept new technology by knowing how useful it is and how easy it is to use. Now, we'll talk about what people have said about technology acceptance models, or TAMs, and see how well they hold up in studies on how people accept new technology. People have said that TAM and its extensions are too simple and don't understand enough about how people accept new technologies. The original TAM was simple and focused on how well perceived value and perceived ease of use could predict future behavior. But because the model was so simple, scholars realized it needed more parts to make it better at making predictions. Critics say that the widespread use of TAM gave the impression that progress was being made in information systems studies, which slowed its growth. It brought attention to the things that make people use technology, but it made it harder to see how technology use affects performance. Also, not much thought was put into what makes a system helpful, like how it looks and how well it fits the user's task. But TAM has reached a level of maturity, which means that research into how people use technology needs to go in a new direction. Progress can't be made just by making copies of the model. Extended technology acceptance models have helped us learn more about how people accept new technologies, but they aren't perfect. For example, they were made for a specific company and only measure two things. Even though it has been criticized, TAM has held up well in theory and has been a good predictor of how people will use technology for almost 30 years. It has set the stage for more study and made it possible to look into how different factors affect how people accept technology. As future researchers and practitioners, it's important to be aware of TAM's flaws and limits while also appreciating what it has to offer. TAM has moved the study of how people accept new technologies forward, but it has also opened up new ways to learn and improve.